Hi guys, Craig here, quickly butting into the beginning of this episode to let you know we had technical issues while recording it, so the sound isn't as great as it should be. Please enjoy nonetheless.
Hello everyone, welcome to Film Shrapnel. I'm Tobias, this is Craig. Today we're talking about Conan the Barbarian, which is one of my all-time favourites.
Feedback.
Maybe all Arnie season I can start the pod with a
He's so signature for that. Like you can if you're watching a movie and you can't see anything, if you just hear that noise, you know exactly who it is.
Oh yeah.
It's just Arnie falling down some stairs or something.
Yeah, I love it. So in this film, in Conan, there is a scene where Tulsa Doom stands on his hand or something, and he does do that. He's like, "You killed my mother," like he's fantastic. I love this film so much. I think he's fantastic in this film. This is my favorite Arnie film. I think if it's not, some days
time.
it will be Predator, but some days it will be this. It's either Predator or this. I fucking love this film so much, man. Like rewatching it, I realise that I really shouldn't have been watching it from such a young age. This has been like one of my favourite films since I was like 8 or something. And I really shouldn't have been allowed to watch this film so young. But my God, it's unreal. I love this film. It's incredible. It's actually incredible. But what are your thoughts, Craig? Because I've nagged you to do this for a long time. And I fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
I really hope you fucking love it too.
I do really like this movie. I didn't realize, by the way, until the opening credits where they say who's starring and everything. Oliver Stone is one of the writers, which surprised me. And the film was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, a Italian producer who produced also Dune, like the old one from David Lynch's Dune, yeah. And I think he also produced a lot of other crazy stuff, like in this kind of like very 80s sci-fi with well, this isn't sci-fi, this is fantasy, but still kind of in that kind of mode, and yeah, fun actiony adventure things, which is it's kind of surprising that it had that connection.
And you've got John Milius in the director's chair as well.
I don't know much about him.
Oh, he's good.
What else has he done?
He did Red Dawn. He was like, I'm sure I heard a story that like him, Spielberg, and George Lucas, the three of them were like really, really close. And like they're all helping each other formulate each other's ideas for things like Star Wars, Jaws, and Red Dawn. So really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they were like, I'm sure I heard this somewhere that like the three of them just really helped each other out creatively in those like early films of their career.
Yeah,
I believe
have
John Milius was the one that Spielberg called. You know the monologue in Jaws where he's like with the eyes roll over. The best monologue in Jaws. I heard a story that Spielberg was like, yeah, we need something. There's something missing here. And he calls John Milius and he's like, you can't come up with something, can you? And then the next day he sent him like a 2-page monologue. And word for word is what you got in Jaws. Like he just wrote it overnight. He's like, oh yeah, I can knock something together for you. And boom, it's in the movie. I'm sure I've heard this somewhere that John Milius did it as a favour, like when he was bored one night.
That's good to have friends like that to help you with these kinds of things. Yeah, I like what I really liked early on in the movie is they established the idea that this is a story before time. Yes. Like very early on, they're saying like, listen, this is not going to match your expectations of history. This is but a time before time when things weren't written. So it gives them like free will to kind of play around with things a lot. Because I feel this film has a lot of like Central Asian kind of vibes, but also a lot of Germanic vibes. I like a kind of lost world that didn't really exist. But because I think a lot of films, when they make film like something like this, they won't make that kind of disclaimer early on, and then people start complaining about the historical elements being all out of the place. But in this way, it's like, no, drop that. Don't think about that. This is just an adventure. Jump in and watch it, basically.
I mean, I suppose Lord of the Rings does it. Like, it just throws you in. It's just like, here you go. Boom.
Yeah, but I think there was already expectations there. True. I think people already kind of knew. Like, it's.
Yeah, everyone knew Lord of the Rings. That's the thing, yeah.
And not only that, but early on, there are elves and there are other creatures that are not based in, like, they're fantasy things. This film, there are fantasy elements, but it's mostly grounded in kind of a reality. So it kind of needed something like that, maybe. I don't know. And the guy, the wizard narrator, who starts the film, basically, it's the same guy who's like the main demon, who's the main, yeah. And like, oh my god, that voice is the demon from Samurai Jack, who like narrates everything, and it's like, he's got a great voice for this. It's fantastic. I was really pleased with that.
Yeah, I do like the wizard in this. He's so cool. Mako's really cool. I've seen him pop up in some other stuff here and there, but I'd say this is his number one, his best performance. Number two, for me, his most iconic role. But he has done some other stuff here and there. There's other guys in here too. Like, we can't really forget to talk about James Earl Jones, Darth Vader himself. Playing another Darth Vader-esque character. I keep noticing James Earl Jones keeps getting cast as fathers, like Mufasa, Darth Vader, and then in this, he's not Conan's father, but then he makes a really big point at the end of it where he calls him, "You're my son," basically. I basically made you, so you are my son, and he's literally saying "my son," and it just sounds. You can hear Mufasa, you can hear Darth Vader. It's just mental how he's always playing this kind of character. He's also the dad in Coming to America as well.
I was also. Yeah, it's interesting how they did that. Maybe they were trying to lean into a little bit of Darth Vader at the time, going down that kind of street.
Well, I don't know what I really like.
But it kind of works though.
It does work. I'll tell you what I really like about James Earl Jones being cast in this, because, and I think I read it somewhere, maybe in Arnie's book, I forget now. But when you have like James Earl Jones, he's got this really booming, deep voice. And then they gave him really long, straight hair. And then like his natural complexion is a little paler than other African American gentlemen. And then they give him like deep blue eyes. So I read somewhere that they were like trying to make him look like a lost race of humans that like haven't existed for millennia, but they did exist at some point. This sort of light-skinned black man with long straight hair and deep blue eyes. This race lost to time. Now I don't know how true this is because like I say, I read it somewhere years ago. But rewatching it now, I really see it. I really get it, where it's like, he does seem so separate from the look of everything else, even within his own cult. Like, he just has a look about him that's so unique. You have questions about, like, I would love to know more about the Thulsa Doom character, maybe even do like a prequel for him and his rise to power. I would definitely watch that because, I really find the snake cult very, very, very interesting. It's really fun. And, the giant snakes and all this, it's great fun. I love James Earl Jones in this. Great casting.
I Yeah, I also wrote that in my notes. Like, I'd love to hear the story of Doom.
Hmm.
Like, how did he? Because at the beginning of the movie, he's like a warlord, basically going around rampaging villages and stealing stuff. And yeah, we see like he kills Arnie's parents and everything, Conan's parents. Then when he pops up later, when Conan is an adult, he's now effectively like a cult leader.
Yeah,
And like, how did that happen? What was the change there that
I
took him
know.
to that point? And he's acting as if like he's morally right about everything that he does, and it's
Mm.
very. I think it's kind of a device really to control people. I mean, he even does that at one
Of
point, like
course.
when he demonstrates his control to Conan, where he makes a woman basically just leap to her death from a cliff, just by asking her
Come
to
to me, my child.
and saying this is real power. But yeah, I would absolutely love
Well,
a prequel where it's about
I,
him.
I'll tell you this. Like going back to that scene where he's like demonstrating power. Um, he references the riddle of steel. Now, the riddle of steel we know is it's like this religious thing. It's this religious question where um, Arnie's tribe of his village, um, they all pray to this god called Crumb, and I assume he's the god of steel or something. But like Crumb is their god,
Wasn't he?
and Arnie says
Uh-huh.
later in the film how the riddle of steel is something that all of us who pray to Crumb need to find the answer to. And then when we die and we go to the gates of Valhalla, Crumb will ask us the riddle of steel and what is the answer. And if we can't answer it, he'll cast us out of Valhalla. Now, Tulsa Doom, when he speaks in that scene, he's talking about the riddle of steel. He says, steel, the answer to the riddle is steel isn't strong, flesh is stronger. It's the hand that wields the steel, not the steel itself. Now, if I'm if I'm honest, I think he's got it wrong. I don't think that's the answer to the riddle of steel. I don't think we actually get an answer to the riddle of steel. Um, but that would imply that Tulsa Doom prays to Crumb too, or at least came from a people that worship Crumb. So maybe there is a connection
Hmm.
between them that goes deeper than just him rampaging the village. Maybe he was specifically targeting Crumb worshippers, but we don't know any of this. But it'd be really good to find out. It's really fun to speculate. But I just always assumed he must have been from he must believe in Crumb. We know that the his friend Subotai, he prays to the four winds, and that's his god. Now, and obviously there's no animosity between them, having different religious beliefs. But we know that all of these different people have different religious ideas that all exist, sort of side by side rather than instead of one another. So
Hmm.
it maybe he's just aware that Arnie is a Crumb worshipper, but for him to be searching for the riddle of steel, that would imply he is also a Crumb worshipper. Where he says that there was once a time where steel meant more to me than gold. So he did take steel seriously as a sort of way of life.
When he said steel meant more to him than gold, I initially thought that meant just fighting, just being a warrior and
Mm.
killing people and stuff. But maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe there's a deeper thing there.
No, no, I
Interesting
mean,
thing
I
about
still think
Crumb.
you're right. I still think you're right. I think the riddle of steel is about fighting. All right, so I, when you watch the film, if we're just to go on Conan's journey, it would be will, surely. Willpower is the answer to the riddle of steel, or something to that effect. But because obviously they were planning on doing a whole trilogy of these and they never made the third one because the second one was so bad that no one wanted a third one. I'd still love a third one. But I reckon they were going to answer the riddle of steel by the end of the trilogy.
Fair play. I was actually going to ask you about the other movies because I don't know if I've seen Destroyer. I might have seen
Destroyer's
bits
bad.
of it, but I can't really remember. Like maybe I watched it when I was. Is it really bad?
I mean, it's got moments like Grace
Is it
Jones
complete
is in it.
trash?
No, it's not total trash, but like Grace Jones is in it, who I think is like one of the most beautiful women to have ever lived. Like, and like I find her so interesting as a human being. Like she's so unique. She's exactly the kind of person you need in like a sort of Conan-y film. Um, then you've also and Mako's back as the wizard. Like I love seeing him. He's way more involved in the sequel as well. But there's a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
bad set pieces. There's a lot of poor effects work in it. The storyline is pretty paper thin. It definitely could be better, for sure. But it's still Arnie. It's still fun. It's just nowhere near as good as this one. Then you've also got Red Sonja,
Yeah.
which also has Arnie in. And Red Sonja is connected to Conan in the comic books. But the character Arnie plays isn't Conan, but a Conan-like character, because I don't think they had the rights to it or something. So he plays a different character, but he is basically Conan. And then you had the Jason
Mm-hmm.
Momoa remake that I think is just dreadful. I do not like it. It's just boring. Like no one's fun in it. No one's interesting. Even Jason Momoa isn't bringing the charisma in this one, which he's normally looms. But I don't really. I mean, I can't think of anyone else who could be recast as Conan besides Jason Momoa. But at the same time, I don't think he's bringing what's required. Like, truly, it has to be Arnie. I don't think you can recast Conan because he's just so perfect in the role. I think this and Terminator are the two characters he was born to play. Like, he's perfect, I think, for Conan, and he's perfect for the Terminator.
I think you might be right there. I haven't seen the other movies, but I did also read, by the way, that this is one of the first films of this kind, like type, this kind of like fantasy adventure uh, film that actually made any money. Like there were plenty of films around this time that were similar, but this was the one that actually people really went to the cinema to watch and actually made money and was seen for a long time as kind of like the standard of how you make this kind of movie, which is quite interesting. Even though it wasn't like lauded or anything by critics, like they didn't love it, but the audiences loved it, which is interesting.
Oh, but you know what though? Like, I think as a film, this is an incredibly good film. Like, everything's considered. The dialogue is fantastic. Like, okay, sure, Arnie has some scenes where he's not great in, but the dialogue, it's written to perfection. It's like a poem. The whole movie, it's like a poem. The dialogue is beautiful. The sets are fucking fantastic. Everything looks great. The costumes are great. Like, you really get taken to another world. I think all the supporting cast give a cracking performance. You know the guy Subotai, right? And the girl that he falls in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them are actors. They're both athletes. I don't know what she was famous for, but the guy was famous for being a surfer. So they specifically hired
Yeah.
athletes alongside Arnie because they felt it were important to have the physique. Even if you're small, you still need to be athletic to survive in this world, unless you're rich and then you can be fat. But like, if you're not rich, you're going to struggle in this universe. Did you notice that Max von Sydow has one scene? Max von Sydow's in this. Did you spot him?
I saw his name in the credits, but I'm not familiar with him to recognize him. Who did he play?
He's the king who's like, steal my daughter back.
Uh-huh. That guy.
He's the king
Okay.
that gives them all
Yeah.
the gems
Fair
to
play.
save the princess from Tulsa Doom.
Yeah.
But he's also in loads of films. He's in he's
I
in
know.
Escape to Victory with Michael Caine and Sylvester Stallone. Oh, I love that film. Yeah, he's just always. I mean,
He's
he often
Swedish, isn't
plays
he, or
mad
something?
German. I think he's German, no?
Maybe Google it to
I
find
thought he
out.
was
Be
German.
sure.
I'm sure he's
It
German.
says he's Swedish French.
Well, then he's not German.
Yeah.
He's played
He
a
was born
Nazi,
in
though,
Sweden and died in France.
so hence the French Swiss. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
as I say, you know, he often
mm,
plays German, so I don't think I can be blamed for thinking he was German.
no, it makes sense. And he's got von in his name, which is really German.
Yeah,
I think it means from in German, maybe.
I do like him, even though he's only in it for one scene. I like everyone in this, really. I don't think anyone gives a bad performance. I will say, Craig,
No, I
right?
agree.
I need to talk about this. So at the beginning of the film, obviously Tulsa Doom, he comes in, he ravages the village, and Conan gets captured and put to work essentially as a slave, and he gets put on this wheel. Now, for me, Craig, this is my number one. I know it's such a weird thing to say, to even have a list for, but as someone who likes films and as someone who would like to make films if given unlimited resources, I think a passage of time in films can either be great or bad. Like, you know, sometimes a passage of time is handled badly or whatever. Sometimes they're really good. This one is my favorite passage of time sequence in a movie, where we get to see, like, you just stick him on this wheel and then you slowly edit throughout it, and he starts there as a boy, and by the end of the sequence he's a man, and it's Arnie. And I just feel this, like, you just get everything you need in this, like, you know, you see that people are dying pushing this wheel, but Conan just has a resolve, and that's why he has this hulking body now, because his resolve to survive was just too strong. Like, fucking awesome passage of time. And they don't explain any of this. They just show it. They don't spoon feed it to you. They just strap him on the wheel, and you just get to see these things happen. And no one's saying anything. There's no dialogue. It's all music driven. And it's just, and then by the end, the music crescendos, and he raises his head, and now he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's fucking brilliant. It is fucking, like, film direction at its best is in that scene. Like, people call me mad for saying that Conan the Barbarian is maybe the best Arnold Schwarzenegger film. I think it categorically is, as a piece of film, the best one. It's made the best. The music is, I mean, look, all Arnie films, because they had a huge budget for the time, you know. Terminator has a fucking awesome soundtrack, you know, and James Cameron's a great director, and it is a labour of love. And, you know, he's done a lot of these films where, you know, it is actually a fantastic film outside of the fact that it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle. Predator, I also think, is one fantastically made movie that could be, like, it's definitely in my top 20 for sure. Conan and Predator in my top 20 films ever made, like, of all the films. Like, they're well made films. They're very, very good. And this one, I just think John Milius really is showing the craft of cinema through this film. It is very, very well made. And that wheel scene, it's just the best showing you that a lot of time has passed scene that I've ever seen. It's so good. Okay, rant over.
Fair play. No, it's okay. Run all you like. Then I was going to say, when I was thinking of this movie, because it's been a very long time since I watched it, and I couldn't remember too much. But one thing for sure I definitely remembered was that part of the movie
Yeah.
where he basically becomes a boy. and sorry, becomes a man. But basically, the idea of him just going round and round and round and then aging up, it's quite nice actually.
It's amazing. It's
It's
so
quite a good
perfectly
aging
done.
up process.
Yeah, it's so good. Honestly, like I just find that so iconic. For me, that is like one of the most iconic moments in cinema. And I know I'm overhyping it, but like for me, it's just brilliant. Like it's perfect. And then not just some of the direction, but the writing as well is just fantastic. Some of the best lines I've ever heard in my life are in this movie.
You really love this movie. Like
It's
you're
so
putting
good.
so much emphasis on it.
It's so good, man. It's so good.
But go on.
Like, so you know the bit where, again, we're at the beginning of the film where, like, after he's become a man, the sort of slave driver sells him off to like a guy who gets him fighting and stuff. But he, at one point, he goes to like the Orient. He goes to China or something. He learns like the fighting styles from all over the world, basically. And we see him sort of around. I suppose they look kind of maybe like a Mongol-inspired group in this universe. They do seem to be based on the Mongols, but they're all sat around a table, and Conan's just in the middle of the table with his legs crossed, and they're all eating around him, and they're like, "What is best in life?" And then this guy's like, wit in your hair and stuff like this. And then they're like, "Wrong, Conan, what do you think?" And he goes, "Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women." And then they all start cheering. And I'm like, oh, what a fucking amazing line. It's unreal. Like, oh, the script is great. Everything's great. There's nothing bad. But even the bad bits aren't bad.
Yeah, and there's also there's a famous Arnie line in this that he reuses a lot that I think you probably must have spotted. Did you see it? One of his common lines that he uses in his movies.
I didn't hear "I'll be back."
So no, that's not in this one. But there is one bit where he's like praying to Crumb, and he's like, "If you do not listen, to hell with you."
The hell with you. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. But that prayer, right, okay, people say Arnie's not a good actor. That prayer, right before he's about to fight, and it's like, yeah, you're probably going to die. And he prays to Crumb, and it's the only time he prays to Crumb the whole movie. And he tells us at the beginning of the movie, I don't pray to him, he doesn't listen to me. And so now he's like, I haven't got the tongue to pray to you, but like, just give me my revenge, whether I live or die. Give me my revenge. Let me avenge my family. And like, it's just so, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. Craig, I love this film so much. It's actually incredible. It's actually incredible.
Can I give some criticism of this movie, though?
Absolutely not.
So, I was expecting more impressive action, to be honest. Did you not feel that it kind of could have been a bit more actiony? No?
I mean, it could have been.
You don't like that criticism?
But I mean, no, I don't, because it's like we get the action scene at the end where they storm the castle and they have the camouflage on them and they have to fucking interrupt the giant orgy so they can kill Tulsa. And of course, he gets away as well.
Camouflage, you call it, but it looks more like they're dressed as giant zebras, to be honest.
To be fair, I'll say the criticism I have, it looks cool, but how would that help you camouflage into anything? I have no idea. Stick out like a sore thumb. But it is a cool look. It looks great. It looks so cool. I really like all the sword fighting stuff. And you know what? They don't overdo it. Like you're saying, it could be more actiony. Well, there are hyper violent scenes, incredibly violent scenes, but then we also get like special effects heavy scenes where we can have something a bit more mystical going on. And then we have other scenes which are totally character driven. And, you know, for me personally, I think it has a really good balance. It's a long film. It's like 2.5 hours. And okay, maybe you had enough room to throw some more action in, but then what would you give up? Would you give up all the really good character beats? Would you give up the effects? What would you give up? Because it's all really, really good. I really love this film so much, Craig. Oh my God. Like, you can't criticize it for me. Like, I'll defend it. I'll defend it.
Of course you will. I will say though, to counter my point about the action, I did notice, because I actually watched this film twice. I finished it again last night, and there's a lot of beheading in this film.
So much beheading.
Like, I swear, like every second or third person murdered has their head cut off.
Yeah.
But they do it quite all right. Like, they don't. It looks believable enough for the effects.
Did you notice that in that orgy, you know, they're drinking out of the green soup ship?
Yeah.
Did you notice that there's like severed heads and hands in there?
I did notice, yeah.
Yeah. So they're a cannibal cult. I wish they'd talked about that a bit.
Which makes me just, yeah, again, like, I feel like they've left so much open for this cult and for Dune to explain. Like, it's very interesting. But you know what else is interesting around that part of the movie? I wonder if something was written out or changed at the last minute, because during their assault on the castle, Dune becomes a giant snake, and then nothing happens, and then he's back as in human form. Like, what was that about? Do you think that maybe he was going to turn into a giant snake and fight them or something, and then they decided not to go down that way? Or I feel like there must have been a purpose to that, and I missed it.
I think he's just escaping. Like he knows that they're coming, so he gets away.
But like,
don't you love how he uses
to escape as a snake though? Yeah, I do love that. Yeah, but it's a big snake though. I mean, if you had a snake as big as he was, it's pretty big. Oh, yeah, I guess it can. To be fair,
it would have been nice. It would have been nice to have seen him do some like fighting as a snake. Because let's be honest, the final climax of the film is just Conan sneaking up behind him and chopping his head off.
Yeah.
It's not.
I was expecting a final boss fight.
Yeah, I really like it though. I really like that you've had the final boss fight. Like, you had the revenge fight. Tulsa Doom gets away, and it's like, yeah, you've killed all of his resources. Like, you've won. You just have to go and finish the job now. He's just a coward. Like, he's been throwing people in front of, you know, Conan the whole movie to protect himself. And Conan's just dealt with all of them. And it's like, now you've got literally no one to hide behind. So that's when he turns to his followers that are following him blindly as a god. And he has to kill him in front of them so they know it's bullshit. He has to defeat the entire institution that Tulsa Doom has created. So he has to kill them. He has to kill him in front of him, all of his followers. And then they spend so long showing you all of the followers losing faith in him after he dies. They actually really let you as the audience sit in that moment where they all come up one at a time, they throw their candles into the water, and Conan just observes it from a distance and just watches as the religion dies, you know, before him. It's so, like, it's great. I'll tell you what it is about this movie. it's grandiose. Like, this is one of those movies that should be considered like, you know, one of the all-time great blockbusters. Like, it's everything is just so well crafted, not just down to the writing, but also down to the set design and production design. But the direction, like letting the audience sit in really heavy moments, and you know, let's not forget all of the stuff that they sort of condensed into the first 20 minutes. That could have been like a whole trilogy of films that you could have explored. But we want to tell this story, you know, so they give you everything you need to know who the character is. And it gives you time to meet other characters that you can grow a connection to, and that you root for all three of these guys. Four of them, sorry, you've got the wizard as well. But like, you start to really grow and care with these characters. And then him exacting his revenge. Like, notice Subotai isn't with him for that final cutting off Tulsa Doom's head. He goes alone. The wizard doesn't go either. He goes alone. He knows he's won. Oh, it's fucking unreal. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. They don't make movies like this anymore. They don't. They don't.
But I was also reading.
It's a perfect film, Craig. It's a perfect film.
It's a good one. I was going to say that, so to add on to what I said earlier, like how this was seen as the standard for like fantasy, action, adventure kind of movies. I think it wasn't until Lord of the Rings came out did people start, okay, now this is the new standard. So for like a good roughly 20 years, this was seen as one of the best examples of such a kind of movie. So it stood the test of time for quite a while.
I mean, it's just fucking great. I can't find any problems with it, Craig. There's one or two scenes where Arnie's acting doesn't hold up, but that's about it.
Yeah, but I always kind of just forgive him for that, because it's just like, it's just not what he's known for. Like, he's a star, not an actor. There is a bit of, by the way, is there some cruelty to animals in this movie? I swear there was a few times where like animals look like they're being abused.
I'm so glad you brought this up. So, one of the funniest scenes in the movie, Arnie and Subotai get high. This is just before they meet the love interest and they storm the tower and fight the big snake. They take some drugs from a street merchant, Black Lotus, I think he calls it. And like the next scene, that like just number one, watching Arnie act like he's high is really fun. He's fun. He's definitely smoked for sure. But then like a camel looks at him funny, so he just punches it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, I don't think
I will say
that you can train a camel to look like it's been punched in the face. I really do think Arnie just punches that camel and it just knocks it the fuck out. I don't know how else they achieved that shot. He just punches a camel, I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't know if they wouldn't get away with that today, for sure. I will say, though, I did show my daughter, maybe it was the Christmas before last, like 2 Christmases ago, Jingle All the Way. And she laughed her arse off watching Arnie when he punched the, is it a reindeer that's in his house? He punched it in the face, or is it a moose maybe? For her it was like one of the funniest things she'd ever seen, someone punching. Probably was a reindeer, it would make more sense. And then he gets the reindeer drunk later.
Maybe you should show her Conan the Barbarian and see how she responds to the camel getting punched.
Not age appropriate yet, I think. Not age appropriate. No. Quite a good movie, by the way. I wasn't expecting to like that one so much.
Jingle All the Way, it's fun.
There's also what other stuff? Yeah, it's a good movie. Did he rape a woman kind of like early on in the movie? like when he kind of loses his virginity.
No. So what?
Like
That
there's one woman
was
that's like he's kind of living in
the
a cage.
yeah. So when he was like touring the world and like learning all the mystic arts and stuff, all the martial arts, they say in the narration like he was specifically bred. They used him to breed more children for these villages that were like naturally strong. So, and that they refer to the women as the best stock. So he was bred with the best stock they had available to ensure the survival of the village, making sure that they're all as awesome as he is. That's how awesome he is.
Right.
That like everyone's like, please fuck my
But
wife, give me a child like you. That's how awesome he is.
she doesn't look like she wants to be fucked, though. She doesn't look like she wants
No,
to
in
be
all
touched by
fairness.
him or in that situation.
No, in all fairness, I don't disagree.
So
But
that's why,
I always felt that it was more down to they're intimidated by his mass. Like they're there for a reason. They know
right,
why they're there. But then they
maybe.
get a look at him and they're like, "Whoa, this is what really this guy." But this is it. He gives him a kiss and a cuddle. He warms him up.
Yeah, he's a gentle rapist.
He is. He is right. He's like nice about it. He's like, "Come on, here's a blanket. Come on, sit down." What do you think about the
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
when he fucks the banshee? I love that scene.
That was a bit fun. Yeah, that's a good one.
Really fun.
Would you fuck
Yeah,
a witch in the woods
really
if she
fun.
seduced you?
Yeah. Especially that one. Especially her. She's fantastic. But when she changes, you know, unfortunate. But I love it. Like, so that scene makes me laugh so much. So she's like, yeah, I know what you need to know, but you have to fuck it out of me first. And then she starts telling him where to go
Yeah,
mid-coitus. So it's like she knows this isn't going to end well. And then she transforms into a monster upon orgasm. He has to kill, like, he throws her in fire and then she flies out the door. And he's just left there like,
yeah.
what the fuck? Now, that's her house.
It's a
He's
bit
flown out of
strange.
her house, right? It's weird, but then what I love the most, I think this is so funny. He decides, well, she's gone, so I may as well stay the night. So he stays the night. He wakes up the next morning, he's leaving there. And you're like, oh, like, you were like, fuck it, okay, cool. She ain't coming back anytime soon. I'd have been too scared to stay. Like, she'll come back, she'll eat me while I'm asleep. He's like, nah,
What?
I'll be all right.
Well, you're not Arnold Schwarzenegger, are you? So that's why you're a pussy.
To be fair, you're right. Maybe if I was Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'd be like, I'll sleep anywhere. Give me a bed of nails. Nap time. To hell with you.
Just thinking of encounters of the sexual kind, I was also thinking about the priest that he meets as well, who basically
Yeah.
seems to like Conan seems to like realize that he's gay. He said, "Oh, can we talk alone over there?" And then basically just beats the shit out of him, which I thought was interesting because I feel a lot of these movies don't ever acknowledge that there's anything other than this heterosexual people. But in this, like, this guy is clearly like attracted to him, and Conan uses it to his advantage to
I mean,
get a costume and fit in with the other guys, which is interesting.
yeah, like, I don't disagree. I think it's interesting because I feel like in that orgy as well, like, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I think they're all at it. But to be fair, they're not explicit with it. They're just writhing around on the floor. Like, you can't
No,
really see anything. But, you know, I got the impression that they were sort of, you know, it doesn't matter who you're having sex with at these big orgies that they have. And Thulsa Doom just sort of sits at the back and watches.
yeah.
Should we talk about the love interest?
You know what? By the way,
Because we've neglected to
go on,
mention her, and she's a great character.
Valeria.
Valeria. She's a great character. She's one of the most badass women in cinema of the time. Now, her real name escapes me. I'm just looking her up. Her name is Sandal Bergman.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, she hasn't really done a huge amount. She is in Red Sonja, by the way, as well. She was in a movie called She as the main character. I've never heard of it. Might have to give it a go. But probably the one that I most know, Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's probably her other big movie that I recognise her from. I've got her up on IMDb now, and apparently she's in The Singing Detective, that Robert Downey Jr. film.
Didn't you say she was also an athlete?
Yeah, I heard this somewhere, but now I'm not finding any information on it. Or she was a dancer.
No
Yeah,
idea.
I think she's a dancer.
I didn't actually look much into her.
Now that I've got her filmography up, everything she did prior to Conan is like dancer, principal dancer. So yeah, I think she was a dancer. She's like a background dancer for a lot of
That's
stuff.
interesting because I remember about a year ago we did a whole Jackie Chan season, and we were talking about Michelle Yeoh in, was it Super Cop 3 or something? I forgot the correct title.
Police
she was also
3,
trained as a dancer.
Super Cop.
That's it. That's the one, yeah. And it's interesting, like I think how some people who train as dancers can then like leverage that into action movies. Like I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it seems to lend itself to these actors, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just movement. It's just being a master of your own body and being able to move. You know, I used to do dance at school when I was at theatre school. You know, sometimes we would just we'd have movement class. So it's just you're really just controlling your body. One thing we used to do, I know it sounds weird, but it's useful to be able to sort of know, like, be completely aware of your body and presence, and know how to control it. Like the one exercise we used to do is falling off a chair in slow motion. So we have to try and fall off a chair as slow as possible without it feeling unnatural. And it's tough. That's a hard one, but it is fun. It is fun, but it is tough. But it really helps you sort of become aware of your form. I know I did this at college as well, so I'm going to be pretentious about it.
Yeah, I can imagine when you actually do fall over, it hurts a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first did it, I fell off the chair properly, so we could get a gauge of like what it should look like slowly. Hurt a lot.
You were the unfortunate guy, probably a class of like 20, 30 kids. Okay, who wants to be the one to fall off a chair so we can all watch and see how it's done?
Oh, I mean, yeah, but you know what? It was really cool because, like, when I fell off the chair, obviously the chair fell over. And it's like, oh, how can we actually try and implement the chair falling over as well? So it's like, okay, I would have to sort of hold the leg of the chair and really sort of work my wrist muscle and try and get it to sort of go over with me. Like, that didn't work, though. It was way too difficult. I didn't have the strength. So it became more something hitting me to knock me off the chair. But still, like, tough. Very tough. And I'm sure Valeria,
I bet Arnie would have fell off a chair better than you.
I reckon Arnie could fall off a chair better than me, and I know Sandal Bergman will fall off a chair better than me. So we're pretty like scattered in how we've approached this review of Conan the Barbarian. We haven't been linear at all. So I don't really know if we've missed much. I can't think.
We're film shrapnel, we're pieces of film, right?
Well, that's true. That's true. I like that. So yeah, is there anything else you need to bring up? Like
The only things,
any standout moments?
well, I was thinking, so talking about Valeria again. So there is a bit where Conan kind of dies and has to be
Yeah.
like saved from demons that can basically take him to hell or heaven or wherever. And they kind of save his life. I was wondering why they didn't do the same for Valeria. They just kind of let her die.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
surely, if you know a way to escape death,
so
wouldn't you try again for someone?
so so this is it. So when the wizard tells her, okay, so they'll come for him tonight, and we do all this prayer shit and all this magic shit, and we fight them off. We'll get him, but these things come with a heavy cost. And so when she dies, it's like an unnatural death. It's like this is the universe taking back payment for you having saved him. This is your payment. So I don't think you can. I don't think they could have helped her in a mystical sense.
Hmm, that's an interesting point.
When she gets hit with the snake arrow, she says, "The wizard! I told him I would play the gods."
Fair play. Maybe they did cover that then. The only other thing that came to my mind is so you like we again about the kind of Central Asian vibes. You said Mongols. Uh, I was I think it goes a bit deeper than that, and I'm wondering about this whole god called Krum thing because in Bulgaria there was actually a king in like the 800s called Krum, and like this was before like Christianity had reached Bulgaria as well, and these Bulgarians were the descendants of people that came from like Central Asia, and like he was like he's called Krum the Fearsome, and he like doubled the size of the country. And I'm wondering if there was any connection to that because I thought that was interesting. I can't find anything else about anyone called Krum, and I'm wondering maybe maybe they took specific interest in like Central Asian culture because it does really feel like that, and I really like that because it feels more of a lost in time kind of feel, a history that we don't really look at properly. That a lot of stuff isn't written down properly as well. We don't know too much about many of the people that pushed from the east to the west, like the Mongols, and because there are a lot of other tribes as well that came from Central Asia that moved into Europe, like even the Huns, which might not be related to Hungarians, by the way, but people seem to connect them. They were also from Central Asia, and they were pushed because I think there was this theory that as kingdoms in what is now China were kind of like forming and becoming bigger, they would push out people into like kind of Central Asia, and they would knock on another group of people and another group of people, and they just end up being pushed all the way to Europe, basically. I'm kind of curious where Krum comes from, if there's a Bulgarian connection. That'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, that is
He's a
quite
king, not a
interesting,
god,
actually.
though.
That is quite interesting. Although, I mean, I just looked it up, and someone says that it might be taken from an Irish god called Krum. There is an Irish god called a pre-Christian island.
I'm going to go with the Bulgarian option, though.
I like the Bulgarian one, yeah. I like the Bulgarian one. It's cool. I mean, I really like all of the sort of like lore that they just sort of mention and don't over explain it. It's just like, yeah, it's here. Get on with it. I mean, he says Krum the whole movie. Anytime something happens that surprises him, he goes Krum. And like they keep rolling with the Krum thing. So it's like, yeah, you establish this thing and you're sort of drip feeding little by little some tidbits of information, and it's really, really interesting. I'd love this world to be explored way more than it has. Like they have talked, like when he came back from politics, they said we'll do another Arnie Conan film now that he's back, and we'll do it where he's like old man Conan becoming a king of his own people and stuff like that. Fucking yeah, I'd love that. Give me that movie. I can't wait. Please, for the love of God, I'd love to see that. But well, I'm not sure we ever will. Funnily enough,
Hasn't happened yet.
like he keeps making Terminator films.
No.
Yeah, it's like he won't leave Terminator alone. And it's like, you're not even going to do like a good Predator sequel. Like, you're just going to do these shitty Terminator films. And, but I suppose he doesn't have to do anything else. He's already got more money than God. And I guess he really likes being Terminator.
Yeah, I think
Much
it's his
rather
coolest
Predator
role
sequel.
by far. So maybe he likes feeling cool. Yeah, Predator would also
It
be
is a cool
amazing to
role.
see.
I do like when she comes back to help him. I love the whole sequence where they sort of hold up just the three of them, and then they're getting like attacked by waves of Thulsa Doom's men. And then he does get that moment where he fights the guy who stole his father's sword, and he gets his dad's sword back.
And he destroys it.
And
Yeah,
of course,
but that's another
the
thing.
sword
Sorry
he
to
needs
interrupt.
to kill Thulsa
About
Doom with as well.
yeah, but so the sword that he uses to destroy the other sword that his father made, he found that in like a tomb of some old king from before. Like, who was that supposed to be?
I don't think it matters who it is. It just matters that it's like the universe is giving him what he needs as in when he needs it. That's how I read it. That it's like he is destined for greatness. So you need a sword, here it is. It's Crumb. Crumb has let this happen. I reckon Crumb had a hand in it.
Maybe so.
By the way, little bit of interesting trivia about that scene specifically. He mentions in his book how, because of his size, it's very difficult to find stuntmen for it. So more often than not, a lot of directors actually ask him to do some of his own stunts, and he doesn't like to because it's really dangerous. Like there's in Commando, he has to jump off a moving plane. And they just assumed he would do it because he's like big and Arnie, and he's like, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? But they were like, well, we thought you were going to do it. So in this scene, you'll remember he's being chased by some wolves.
Yeah.
Remember? So they're not CGI, they're real wolves. And that's really Arnie. He really is running away from those wolves. And you can find it on YouTube if you really want. They do catch up to him in one shot that they don't use in the film. They catch up and they drag him off that rock, and fuck, it looks painful. It's scary as fuck. If you imagine you in that situation, I'd be shitting a brick that these wolves are actually fucking going for me. Or I'd be like, get a stuntman in, stick a wig on him, get a stuntman in. I'm not doing that again. Also, I have to say,
That's
by
insane.
the way,
That's
how
really
wonderful,
insane.
How wonderful is his hair in this?
Great hair, fantastic,
His hair is
luxurious, no, fantastic.
He should do L'Oreal adverts. L'Oreal should buy the rights to Conan and then do adverts with him, like waving his hair around.
That could actually really work, because this is what the real man looks like. Flowing hair.
L'Oreal for men.
Gracious
because
hair.
we're all worth it.
Unleash the barbarian within.
So yeah, we've pretty much said everything. I mean, I do love the giant snake fight. That's really fun. We didn't really talk much about that, but I really love that. We haven't really talked much about the wizard played by Mako, but he is one of the best characters in the whole fucking thing. It's just, he's very samey. Every scene is just him sort of freaking out about something. I love it when he tries and helps fight and he gets knocked over and he's literally like a turtle, like in a shell on its back. Like he needs help standing up. I'm like, oh, I love him. I love all the booby traps.
Yeah,
like
great.
There's one trap he makes where they're going to think that he's going to hit him in the head, and then the thing comes around and fucking stabs him in the sternum. And you're like, damn, that's good.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, I know you said that it wasn't as action heavy as you wanted it, but dude, I still think the stuff they do, they really deliver on. I think I love all the violence in it. It's good fun violence, and it's quite bloody. It's quite bloody. Like it's not.
It is.
It's not fake shit.
There's a
it
fair bit
really
of splattering,
good.
by the way. I noticed.
Yeah.
Like I remember towards the end where he kills the guy who killed his father, and when he falls down, the camera turns back to Arnie, and there's like a splat of blood that kind of flows up in the air as the guy falls, and there's a fair bit of that, isn't there? It done quite well, by the way. Not too much, not too, just right.
Yeah, I really like what they do
Anyway.
with the violence and the action. And you know what? Like when he beheads Tulsa Doom at the end as well, like things are pinging off him. Like things are like, I don't know, it's chunks of flesh and blood or whatever, but things ping off him when he hits him with the sword. And it's not like a clean swipe as well. It's like he's got to hack away at it a little bit and then like just shows everyone his head like he is not immortal. He is not a god. He's been lying to you this whole time. Boom. Roll fucking credits. I am Conan. Hear me roar.
Yeah.
I also really love that Valeria comes back from the dead to save him right at the moment that she's needed.
That he needs it.
Because she says it to him earlier in the film. Like, if I was in hell, I will come back for you and, fight by your side. And then she really does do it. So I do love that. I really can't think of much else, though. I think we've covered pretty much everything, Craig, unless you've got anything.
Yeah. No, I think probably it's time that we wrap this up and give it a rating.
All right. Let's give it a rating. How many snake cults out of 3 would you give it?
If we're rating it that way, I'll give it a 3.
Good.
Because I do like the ideas of this movie. Yeah.
It's so good.
You agree, right? It's also a 3.
Yeah, of course. All right, go on, out of 10.
But what would you give it out of 10 as a film? I would give this probably about a 7, I think.
You're joking.
Too much
7?
or too high?
I'm really
too little or
angry.
too high? Yeah.
Far too little.
No, don't be angry. Screw you. You know you're overrating it. Come on. You're taking it too far.
No, it's so perfect.
I think
so
7 is pretty
well-made.
generous.
Shut up. Generous. Are you actually joking? Right.
You know it's a 7.
Bollocks. You know what? We were having a good little podcast there, Craig. We were having a really good little podcast stage. You have to ruin it with your rating.
Are we not friends anymore?
No. I take this as a personal affront.
I'm sorry, but I can't help how I feel. What would your rating be then?
10.
10? A clear 10. An honest 10.
10. Clear and honest 10.
Okay, but that's your personal rating, right?
As a movie, it's perfect. It's 10.
As a movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's perfect.
Okay, well...
10 out of 10. It's perfect. It's like the cinematography is on point, the direction is on point, the writing is fantastic. Everyone gives a good performance. The storyline is compelling. The characters are compelling. The story is like huge. It's really grandiose. It's like all 3 Lord of the Rings films in one film. It's perfect. 10.
Okay. Do you want to know what its actual IMDb rating is?
I guess it's probably going to be like a 6.8 or something. Because people are stupid.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Hold on.
7.1.
Stupid. these shitty
It might be a low
IMDb people.
7 or a high 6.
Ah, interesting. Okay, it
Tell
is
me
a
it's
high
higher.
6.
Tell me
It's
tell me
6.9.
like objectively, it's fucking amazing.
But I think it makes sense.
No, it's just wrong. It's incorrect. It's like, you know, I would put Conan the Barbarian in the same echelon as Star Wars and Jaws. One of the greatest films ever made. It's that good. And it's just so, I think it's criminally
I will
underrated.
give you this.
I know you might think maybe I'm overrating it, but I think generally people underrate it.
I think it is a bit underrated, to be fair. I don't think it's as underrated as
Hugely.
you think it is, but I do think it's a bit underrated. And I will probably watch this
It
again
is.
before I watch Star Wars again, for sure.
Yeah, fuck Star Wars. Shit, this is way better. Okay, I know I'm going to have a
Sure.
hard time convincing people of that.
Well, I think
But
once they see it,
I really
I think
love
they'll
this.
see why. I think this is just a bit like Star Wars feels really dated, but this doesn't have the same like it's a bit dated, but not as dated as Star Wars.
It's
Star Wars feels
timeless.
really
It's timeless.
within its
Like,
time.
you can watch this now, and okay, you can tell that it's come from an earlier time where film stock looked different, or whatever. But it can come out exactly like this now, and people would love it. It's fucking great. It's actually great. It's really like I say, I definitely put this as like one of these big epic movies, that are one of the greatest things. I really do think this is one of the best movies ever made. It's a fucking brilliant movie. And it's Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't the best actor in the world. And, there are a couple of moments where that shows. But I will never understand anyone not liking this more than a 9. It's got to be a 9 minimum.
Ooh.
It's got to be. It's perfect.
Ooh.
It's fucking perfect. Even if you don't like the movie, surely you can see the craftsmanship behind it. Like, this is a very well-made movie, and it's incredibly well-written. Like, you will be hard-pressed to find a movie as well-made on every level. We haven't even talked about the soundtrack, Craig. Oh my God, the soundtrack I could listen to on its own, no problem, and just play the movie in my head. I'm going to do that now after the podcast. I'm going to listen to the Conan soundtrack because it's fucking perfect. Every level of this movie, every detail, there's just so much craftsmanship gone into it. It all works together incredibly well. It's fucking perfect. It's perfect. Like, the way people, I think Star Wars is criminally. No, it's true, man. And look, I've said this many times. I think people massively overrate Star Wars. I don't hate it. I think it's good fun, but I've never seen it as one of the best films ever made. I feel that Conan should have that spot that everyone thinks about Star Wars. It's like, okay, but for all the reasons you like Star Wars, it's present in Conan, but it's actually a good movie on top. Like, Star Wars isn't a good movie, it's a fun movie. They're fun, but people still call them the best movies ever made, the original trilogy. I mean, are they? Are they? Like, they're fun.
No,
the second one
definitely
is probably not. The second one is really good. The Empire Strikes Back's fucking great. But, I still think Conan's a better film. Like, whether you enjoy it less or more is immaterial. As a film, it is better. It doesn't look like... I think some of the effects in the first Star Wars film, it's like, how can you even take that seriously? But how did this get so popular when it looks this bad? Like, yeah, for me, it's just a fun romp in space. Conan is a movie that takes itself seriously enough to be a proper film. It's an epic film.
Oh man, we've unleashed the
word.
beast in you today with this movie.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that I'm shitting on Star Wars.
All
I
right.
don't mean to. It's just my go-to.
No,
when I'm defending a film, it's always my go-to to throw Star Wars under the bus. It's really easy to criticize Star Wars, I think, and it's so well loved. So
yeah,
that's my go-to retort, and my go-to rebuttal. But I do love this film. I know it's a personal opinion, and for me, this is a 10 out of 10 film, and the best Schwarzenegger film by a country mile. One of the best films ever made. It's definitely in my top 20 of all time. 100%. Love this movie that much.
All right. Thanks, Tobias. I think, yeah, I don't know if we ever get such a bigger praise from you for any other movie. It'll be interesting to see if that ever happens. I think we need to wrap this one up now. I need to run away, and I need to pee really bad as well.
Okay.
Thanks, guys, for coming to listen to us. As always, Tobias always is coming to listen to us. I never really understood why he said that, but he still says it because you came out to us like we're performing live somewhere. But we forgive him for that. Yeah, keep listening. We're going to have some more Arnie stuff coming your way, so Tobias is going to have a lot more to say in the next few episodes. I'm not sure when we're getting stuff out, though, which is why we're calling it Arnie season. But yeah, keep listening to us. Pay attention to us on social media, on Instagram and Twitter. And I respect your opinion, even though I don't give it a 9 or a 10. Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Shrapnel!